up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Unaligned and Unfiltered Podcast. I'm your host, Jack, and I am joined today by Sara Rian, author, poet, and therapist who has experienced grief, such as myself, and different types of grief. And I'm really excited to meet with her, talk with her. If you are online and you've experienced grief, I'm sure you've seen one of her many beautiful poems. I came across her page in 2023 and can't even explain the amount of healing I have just gotten from her poetry. So I'm very excited to sit down and talk with her. So welcome, Sara. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I'm so glad we're making this happen.
Cool. Well, I guess to start everyone off, do you mind taking us just a little bit on your journey, why you start, your reason for starting writing, and just a little bit about yourself, so people who maybe aren't familiar with your work just know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, no, of course. A little bit about me. So currently, I'm a therapist. I have a private practice. I'm in Metro Detroit, born and raised in Metro Detroit. So I'm here. I'm a mom of two little girls. I have a 4 and a 3-year-old. So yeah, that's kind of my other world. Is I'm a licensed social worker, a licensed marriage and family therapist, a licensed or a certified sex therapist. So that's my world as most people know it. And then the folks listening might know me, right, as Sara Rian. Ryan's actually my middle name, and that's what I use with my writing. My mom loved my middle name, was very proud of my middle name, called me Ryan, called me Rye. So because of all my poetry that's in honor of her, I decided to start writing using my middle name. So speaking of my mom, so she's the whole reason I do any of this. So I lost my mom in 2018 to suicide. That was in July, 2 weeks before her birthday. I was the last one to speak to her. It was extremely traumatic. It was the biggest loss of my life, still is. She was my best friend. So I was having just I was a therapist. I knew neuroscience. I knew all these basic things, and I was still just completely shut down and I didn't know what to do with it all. So I started writing short poems about grief. I had been writing a little bit before that, but not about grief. And so within a day or two of her passing away, I just started writing little micro poems, insta poetry kind of style. And, here we are almost 8 years later, and I am just still writing about it. So yeah.
It's beautiful, and I just wanna honor your mom for a moment, because I went back and did research in your page and just looked at videos of her, and she's just a beautiful, beautiful soul. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing her with us, and for just sharing her journey, because I feel like it's just so important to just keep honor them by living and just talking about them. I think it's really, really the best thing that we can do. So I just want to thank you for that. And
Thank you so much. Yeah, she was I think she was obviously beautiful. I'm I was my mom was the prettiest, but inside, truly just such a good, beautiful, beautiful human. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I always like people to know who is it behind the writing, just because my poems are so general, especially as of late. It just is no one knows who I've lost, no one knows who I'm writing about. And so it's always nice to be oh, this is the face that I'm thinking of when I'm writing these poems. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you think, because you just brought it up, do you think your style has gotten more broad? Is that what you mean? Your poetry now, you kind of coming from a place of grief without, I guess, a theme? The theme is just grief instead of loss of a parent. Is that what you mean? More broad?
Absolutely. So when I first started writing, you could tell. So I published 2 books, one in 2018 and another in 2019. I actually unpublished them because they were so raw and so specific to suicide loss and loss of a mother that I'm actually like very protective of those now. And
Yeah.
you wouldn't know it was probably me writing those based on how I write now. They were very angry and like traumatized, and you could tell I was very much writing about my mother. I was
Yeah.
writing about suicide loss, and you know, felt like the world was very cruel. So over time, it just broadened it to the point where now people, like, they think I've lost a child, they think I've lost my spouse, right? They don't know who I'm writing about.
Yeah.
Versus early on, you absolutely knew it was like
Knew that.
very, I would say, like mother, right? Like it was very much written specifically about her. And that was clear. It was not ambiguous in any way. Now
Yeah.
I write about grief kind of like a broad stroke, right?
Yeah. I thought it's just wild to me how grief just changes over the years. Like I definitely feel like the anger in like the first like, and you're just like, no, like I'm just like angry. Do you feel, I guess like just from, you yourself or someone who's grieving or a therapist, how do you think we're able to, I guess I'm just impressed like how we're able to get less angry. Like,
Yeah.
do you ever like look at yourself and be like, well, I'm proud of myself because I'm less angry?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I always have a little bit of like a
Mm.
spicy, fiery side when it, like, right? Like, I think as a therapist, we have to do a lot of reflection. I think one of my biggest defense mechanisms was anger, right? When I felt shame or embarrassment or injustice, especially injustice, I would go right to anger, like kind of not a hothead. But so when it came to my mom and losing her to suicide, and knowing just how much trauma she endured her entire life from being abandoned by her own mother in the foster system, never adopted, and then just like in many abusive relationships, it was just awful. Like she lived a really painful, hard life, and I was so angry that the world was so cruel and couldn't keep her safe enough where like she felt like she had to leave it.
Yeah,
And I was so mad. I'm still mad about that. I
of
am.
course, of course.
But it was that it felt so unjust that I think anger was like the secondary emotion that came out, and it was like the biggest one was like I
Hmm.
wanted to burn the world to the ground for making things so unsafe that people thought they needed to die. um and then it just softened, like it's I didn't I don't know, it just softened in a way where I wasn't so angry at grief. Like a lot of it too, grief was like this enemy in my mind. Like I was constantly just like, I hate grief, I hate this, and I don't view that the same way. I hate my loss and I hate what happened, but grief, I'm not mad at grief. Grief is like totally a part of this, and it's supposed to be there, and it's, I don't know, I'm like,
No,
it's an ally now in a way.
yes.
Right.
Reading your poetry made me, I think I was literally, maybe like, this was recently that this like light bulb went off because of your work, and that you're just saying it now that I never really separated my loss and my grief. Where it's like I can still be angry at the loss, but like you just said, like grief is the ally. Grief is what keeps, like, I guess what I think, I don't know if this makes sense, but like keeps them alive. Because if we don't grieve and we don't feel or we don't talk about them, what what else is there? Then there is just the loss. And that's not something I realized before your
Yes.
poetry.
Yeah, we kind of lump it all to, right? People, and sometimes, I mean, I'll say, I'm not a full like grief is love, and I know there's like traumatic grief. Mine was traumatic grief, right? This was not a normal loss. This was not how it was supposed to be. So I'm always like, hey, sometimes there's like traumatic grief, and it's not, I write like grief is not just love sometimes, right? It's nightmares and it's panic attacks
Hmm.
and it's anger and guilt and regret. But to me, I'm like, I don't stub my toe and then get mad at the fact that I like screamed. I'm mad at the fact that I stubbed my toe. Now, a loss and death loss is nothing close to stubbing our toes, but I'm not mad at my response. It was a pain response, right? And so,
Yes.
like, at the time, though, I was just so mad at everything. I lumped it together and didn't realize, like, I can hate my mother's death. I can hate how that happened. I can hate and dislike so many things, but to be mad at my body for responding and like aching for her, no. No,
Yeah.
I knew that would happen. My worst fear was my mother dying, and it happened. I was like, what did we think? What did I think I was going to do? Right? Be okay? No.
Yeah. No.
But it has softened. I definitely do not walk around just so, and that was part of trauma too, irritability and my nervous system dysregulation. And as I've regulated over the years and found support, and I won't use the word healed, but as I found
Yeah.
more regulation, I think my anger's come down because I can narrow in on what the emotion actually is.
Okay. Yeah. Did you?
But yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
no,
real.
no, no, that's
Did you? Were you a therapist in 2018?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. I've been
Okay.
a
Cool.
therapist since 2015, so that's when I graduated from my clinical social work program,
Okay.
and I was actually working in a sexual assault program from 2015 into the end of 2018. So I was in the sexual assault program working with survivors of sexual assault and childhood sexual abuse when my mom passed away. Yep, yep.
So
I was
that's what
already
you
doing
meant. Like you did
therapy.
have like those tools and toolboxes, but like
Yeah,
when I feel like when it's so direct and so traumatic, like there's you could have all the tools,
it
but
blew my world
they're
apart.
just they're gonna be just everywhere, and you're not gonna be looking for them because you're just like consumed by like what. I think the hardest thing to do is just like realize like wait, I have to keep going. Like this,
Yes,
like I have to, and it's just like that to me is still mind blowing, especially for my own loss, but also, you know, for you and like a mom. I just really honor that anyone who has had any type of loss, but I know like moms can just be so like, I feel like for a lot of people those are our persons, those are our people, and it's just the fact that you keep on keeping on is just it's beautiful in itself, and it's painful, and it's just I just can't believe we have to. I guess like
I
that's like
know.
wild to me.
It is. It's a weird, and I know not everyone has a close relationship with their mom. There's a lot of mother wounds out there, or, my mom was raised without her mom. Like she didn't know
Yeah.
her, right? So she had only known this mother wound. So I had never met my biological grandmother on that side, right? But I know like my paternal grandmother was my other favorite person in the world, right? So there's all these
Yeah.
complicated relationships, but my mom and I were that, right? Probably too close, right? I was probably like too obsessed with her. I was probably anxiously attached to her in so many ways because like it was, I have three siblings. She loved us so much and we were her whole world. Like she put everything into being a mom and we were just very attached, very attached. So
I love that she
when
was
she
sorry, I'm
was,
like that love, even though she didn't receive it, like was able to pour so much
yes,
into you all. Like that's beautiful. It just
she
speaks to who she was.
fueled.
Is,
Yeah,
you know.
it fueled her. She said, like, she knew she wanted to be a mom since she was young. And she was like, I'm going to do this different. And obviously, like, my heart breaks that she still had to, like, leave us in a way
Yeah.
because, the pain got to be so much. But it's almost like she waited. Like, she waited until we were grown and she truly thought, like, we would be okay and we would be
Yeah.
better. But it was like her, like if you knew her, you had heard about us. Like every coworker, every person, I spoke with her therapist after she passed. I had to call and I was like, I know you can't confirm or deny that this is your client, but I do want to let you know, like my mom did, she did pass away by suicide this week. She won't be at her appointment. It doesn't feel fair for you as the therapist to not know. I know many therapists never get to know. And this poor woman, right, like couldn't, my mom's information is still protected, but I knew it was her therapist because we talked to her, but she was just like, I can't say,
Yeah.
but if your mom were my client, I want you to know, like, you guys were her everything, right? Like, she was still protecting, but I'm like, I know you're a therapist. And it was just that, like, you knew. So she poured into being a mom and we felt every bit of that. So when she passed, I was single. I was living on my own. I was a therapist. I was not a mom. I didn't know if I wanted to be married. I didn't actually know if I wanted children. So I was 28 and that was, I have my girlfriends and my friends and all that, but like she was my person.
Yeah.
It's not like I had like a partner to lean on or like, okay, let's, you know, here are my kids. And like, I was just like,
Yeah.
I felt so alone. And sometimes it's harder for people too, to have kids and a family that they're trying to care for when they're so traumatized and grieving. But um, I definitely was like, I don't know what my purpose is and why I have to stay,
Yeah.
because like no one will love me like she loved me. There was just something about her love, right? And obviously since then a lot has changed, but I couldn't really, it was really hard to see to the other side.
Yeah. I did read, it all makes sense because I don't know how any like when you get to like later stages like now, like I know mom's coming up on 8 years this July.
Yes, it'll be 8 years this July.
So it does, it just keeps forming. And I feel like some days you could be back to day one and you're just like, okay, I just need to sit and honor that. But I feel like people who don't have these losses or maybe never experienced loss or society as a whole just doesn't understand that. And I feel like your writing speaks to that too sometimes, like the taboos of grief. I guess I'm just wondering from your like point of view or opinion, why do you think we as a society like put such a rush on getting over things, or why don't people want to sit in that uncomfortability of, I guess, just sadness and grief? Because I just wish we did, because I feel like we always have to rush back or feel like we have to rush back or put shame on ourselves for not being where we thought we would be, like at a 3 month mark, or like it's, which 3 months is like one day in my
It's a
opinion.
blink.
Just
That's
like
a blink
hours.
in my mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
nothing.
why do you think like we're like that?
Yeah.
What
Well, I mean, I think that society, I mean, our culture, our society, we are death phobic, we are grief illiterate. I don't think sadness and everything is productive enough, so I don't think it feeds into like the capitalism, right?
yeah.
If you're resting and mourning and sitting and doing all this, you're not working, you're not making money. So I think there's the social worker in me that has studied macro level system,
Yeah.
problems. I think that's one of them. I think there was a point in time in other eras where we were like really good about grief. And I think there are many other cultures that are much
Much
better about
better.
like honoring grief and really like letting it be around forever. Right. I just don't think ours is one of them that's aligned with like how grief actually works. I think we are like directly opposite of how grief should look and how we should honor it. And we just do the opposite. We're like, you get 3 days bereavement and you should be good. But then
Yeah.
it just doesn't really, and there's all the debate about, grief as a disorder, right? Like prolonged grief is a
Wait,
disorder in the
really? No,
DSM.
I did
Yeah,
not
yeah,
know that.
yeah. And for some people that might give them access to more therapy, right? If they're billing insurance, that might give them access to some more tools, all of that. There's all these pieces behind it. And then there's a part of me that's like, I can't even imagine someone telling me like my grief is prolonged and like shouldn't
Yeah,
look this bad still. So there's that, right?
that's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of debate. There's a lot of, I'm not a grief therapist. That's not what I specialize in. But I would be like heartbroken if my therapist said like, hey, I think like this is a
Time to
disorder
wrap it
now.
up.
Yeah, like, oh, I don't
No
know. This
more
feels
tears
very
for
normal.
you.
Yes. So
What?
there are people who make the case that it is for, right, like access to insurance and all these things, or you know whatever. It's very weird to put that anywhere near like a diagnosis. But so all that to say, I think culturally and societally we have just major issues with like letting people sit, because I think that's too much rest, and I think that's not as productive, and I think people are so uncomfortable with sadness, and we want to fix and we want to keep going, and we are toxic positivity and
Oh,
right,
that's so
all the
true.
things that we have, like people just, if you sit in it too long, you're moping, you're attention seeking. We're not great. We're just not we're
Yeah.
not great
No, yeah,
in
when you
terms of
explain it like
support.
that, it makes.
Yeah, I think there's these undercurrents that we could tie it to, like, oh, I'm sure you don't want people taking more time off work because that doesn't make anyone money, right? Like there's all those parts, but the parts
like
we see are,
it's like if you get the time that you actually need instead of rushing back, or maybe like, I don't know. I wish like I had IEP in school. I'm like, maybe we could just have like individual plans for people and like going back to work with like support, because I just like, yeah, you're right. I think it definitely has to, like, it honestly reminds me of like, now I'm thinking of the disability community and like the taboo that's thrown at us for like needing to not work, but we're just being lazy and not wanting, like it's kind of like the just society. Yeah. Like what we're built on is just like move, 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 no matter what happens to you.
Absolutely.
Or what's going on, move.
Absolutely. Whether it's temporary or lifelong, and like like a permanent, a permanent condition. It's just, it's so interesting. Like we're not great. We're not great with any disability accommodations. Just everything is so wrong and done wrong.
Yeah.
And grief is one of those things.
Yeah, it is.
People who have lost children, I'm like, I don't think you should ever have to work again unless you wanted to. Like, I really don't. I think you should just focus on like surviving, because, right? I mean, this is why we see mental health crises, and this is why we see suicide rates high, and right, like we are not set up for any of these things, especially grief, which is just interesting because grief is like the one thing we're all going to encounter.
Yeah, like we're all, yeah.
But no, we have a lot of fixing to do, which I think we see in this community online. Like we do see, like it's not, I don't even notice when people talk about death, dying, grief of all various forms, because I'm just like in it and submerged in it all the time. But like most people aren't. They're like, what do you mean you write grief poetry? And they get really uncomfortable. Wow. And I'm like, yeah.
I found it and I was like, what is this gold mine?
Yeah. There's like this whole community.
That speak to my like soul.
Yeah. And grief poetry like saved me. I'm like, that's what I was on Instagram reading poems that were 4 sentences, 4 lines long, because I couldn't compute anything else. Yeah, and it just, I felt so seen. Yeah.
Your poetry packs, like, it could be one sentence and like my whole heart is just like on the floor. And I'll be like, wow, like some things that you have written, like, which one did I read? I have it down here. And I was like, some things I've just never been able to put into words. And I should have wrote the whole poem out, but the whole poem, the last thing it says is like, bury any doubt. Like, because when you go through something and it is a traumatic loss, like for I'll share a little bit. Like I lost my best friend, Jake, to a heroin overdose in 2013. So like when those happen and like you feel like, oh my gosh, did you do enough? And like it's like that poem spoke to me like, stop. There's already so much hurt happening. There's so much like emotions. You don't need to add on top any self-doubt or shame that you didn't do enough. Bury the doubt. Know that they loved you and you love them, and like keep that story. Like when I read that poem, I was like, oh my goodness.
I think I know which one. I think that was from We Are Carried. I want to say that was, yes, it was about like to bury any of that doubt, like in a deeper grave, right? Yeah. Like that is one of the things that comes up with like traumatic loss or untimely loss or just out of order loss, is I'm like, there's so much regret and guilt and stuff packed into it. Now, it doesn't mean there's no regret when, a grandparent dies at 102 years old. I'm like, my grandma died in her 80s and it was very sudden and she wasn't sick and things. And like, I was messed up. Like, I was like, it didn't even matter how long she lived. I was like, what do you mean she just like went to the grocery store and like never came home? Right. And there was regret or things there, of course. So you're never free from it. But there's something about when it's like actually a traumatic loss that like the regret and the guilt and all it is so big. It is so big. And that part, I'm like, it can eat you alive. Right.
It really
and so I do write about that a lot, because that one is like like people want to write about grief and, like love letters. And I do that too. I write to my mom all the time. I hope you're dancing. I hope you're free and all these things. And then it's like, and here are the really ugly, brutal parts about grief. And it's like, I could have done more, or I should have saved you, or I should have, right? Like there's just so much to it in grief that's like sometimes I think a little too ugly for the poetry world. But we need it.
Yeah, which is so funny. Like why? Like I guess I would never think like something is too ugly for poetry, but I guess people have
Gosh,
in their
me
heads
neither.
that poetry is supposed to be beautiful, but for me, like I've always just been a little twisted. So I feel like for me,
Same.
writing has always just been, you know, the emoji that's just a dead rose.
Yes.
That's what poetry is to me. It's beautiful, it's alive, and it's just like I don't know, like
I'm the
that's
same
what
way.
poetry is to me. So I
My
don't think that.
poetry,
Yeah.
like before, like now it's a little more lovey-dovey, it's a little bit more chill or hopeful, or it's softened. But like when I was writing my little bit of poetry before my mom passed, it was like dark. It was very like femme fatale, like feminist, angry about, like it was about dating and just like, people being just like toxic
Manipulative
dating
things.
and manipulative and gameplay. Like, oh my gosh, like people would reach if I've started like posting it on this page that you all know now, but on there it used to be just like dating stuff that I would either only send my mom, and she was like, "Oh, I love it. My mom loved poetry and she loved
Yeah.
dark stuff. We loved crying at poetry. We liked it being heavy and
Yeah.
sad." But I would like post some of the stuff and like people were reaching out like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I just like I love this." Like, yeah, people would call it like dark and twisty
Yeah.
poetry that I was writing. So I like had to start writing under a different name and put it on a page because people were like, "Are you all
Are you
right?"
okay?
Yeah. And I'm like, "No, yeah, this is what I think
I
poetry
actually
should
feel
look
better
like."
after I wrote
Yeah.
this.
Like I feel great. What do you mean? Like this is poetry was a place to put the hard stuff, but I think I don't do algorithm tracking. I'm not good at any of that stuff and
No,
I
me
don't
either.
care.
I'm terrible
But
at
I know people will be like, "Oh, you shouldn't, you should post the lighter stuff and the easy stuff and the Instagram type stuff and the quick stuff and the feel good, positive vibe stuff." And I'm like, "Oh no. No thanks." Yeah. No, thank
how
you.
I feel and
Yeah.
honor that. And whoever
Yeah.
wants to come along for the journey can. And if you
Yeah.
don't, like, that's all right.
Yeah, there's plenty. I can point to 1,000 other accounts to go to, and like
Yeah.
that's great. We need it all, but like if you feel like crying, I know a place where
Yeah.
you can go cry, and it's my
Literally.
page, right?
I have
Yeah.
to I have to tell you, last year we are coming up. Last year, one of my best friends, her brother passed away in March of last year. And I'm saying this all smiley, but you get it. Like,
I totally
just,
get it. Yes.
um, and me and my mom were laying, like, we had to fly home back to New York to go for the services. And I was just sitting in the hotel room with my mom. We have beer. My dad's drinking a beer, and we're all just like reading your poems and like
Oh my
crying over our
gosh.
loss. So,
Oh.
just want you to
See,
know.
that's like it. That's where
I was
I'm
just
like,
like,
that's it.
it is because you help. It really does. It's,
Oh,
my mom was like, "Wow." She's like, "These are beautiful." Like, thanks. It's like, and that's what we did. And it just was
that
a
means
nice
so much.
night, drinking beer and reading poetry.
Crying over poems. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, um anything else that I try to do, I feel like it just like wouldn't be genuine. It would be conforming to something else, and it's just not needed.
No.
There's never going to be enough people talking about grief to where I'm like, I don't need to change it to be something. There's someone else that writes like that. There's someone else that writes more therapeutic or longer poems or more positive or more, take a more healing stance. And I don't know. I just like, that's not what any of this is for. I don't care. Instagram, like I love that it's connected me to everybody, but that is not what I'm not an influencer. I'm not a content creator. Like I am a daughter who lost her mom to suicide and I'm writing about it. And this is a great place to put it where folks have access to it for free, right? If they want to support me, they can. If they want the books like all together and stuff, like you can, but also here's some stuff, right, for free. Most people are going to do that, right? And yeah, I'm like, a place to cry is just like a place to really, that's what I was looking for. I want the poems that will make me cry. I want
Yeah.
it to like rip my heart, like crack it wide open.
I
And
need to
so
feel something
I
still,
gotta feel.
you
Yeah.
know?
I get enough of all the like lovey dovey, right? And I do, I love writing. Like, I hope they're waiting for me, and I hope my mom's face is the first thing I see. And, I hope you're free, and I hope you don't hurt. And that is it is a part of this. And those might feel comforting. And then there's other ones where I'm like, these are not comforting poems, but it's real.
But it's real.
Right? Yeah.
I love that. I love what you're doing. How, as someone who I think like starting to like get back into writing, how does it feel? Like, how does it feel each time that you give a piece of yourself away online or like your book? Like, how does that feel for you each time?
It's very scary. I have not, I'm sure if I was someone who was like, this is my full time gig, this is what I've always wanted to do, like maybe it would feel different and like not as scary. It feels very vulnerable for me. Um, that's gotten easier over time, but I'm so protective over my mom and I'm
Mm-hmm.
so protective over the way I grieve her that it's very scary because, the internet is wild and it is like cutthroat out there. And I'm
It
like,
is.
well, if someone comes on here and says something, they're going to say like, well, you put it out in public, you deserve it. And I'm going to be over here wanting to like throw hands.
Yeah.
And so I get very nervous
I'll
of
come with
like,
you. We'll ride at dawn.
yeah, I was going to say, I'm like, we ride at dawn because yeah, and so far it has actually been wonderful. So far, I have not caught any weird, like a poem went viral and now I'm getting a bunch of people coming on saying awful things. No one is like suicide shaming. No one has done any of that because like I know that will be really hard for me the day that it does happen.
Yeah.
But so far it's been more rewarding to give these pieces away and these pieces of my grief, like sharing it. It feels like it's keeping my mom alive. It feels like she is helping the world in the way that I think she could have if she had the resources.
Yeah.
When I write a book, and my mom her dream was to like write a book, not like fiction, but like, like an autobiography. She wanted to like
Yeah.
write her story and she never got to. So it feels like I'm sharing her in a way she never got to. So far, it has been scary, but worth it. I will let you know if that changes.
Yeah. I'm glad it's
But yeah, social media itself stresses me out, and I get um, the whole just like being chronically online is very freaky for me, and
yeah.
that part I do not like. So yeah, it's like it feels really good when a poem comes to me, and if I decide to share it, that feels lovely. And when it doesn't, I just never want that to feel bad. Like I have to write.
Yeah.
And
I
social
agree.
media that pressure has presented where it feels like, oh my gosh, I haven't written in a few days. What's going to happen? And I'm like, nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why it makes you feel like just because you start a page now you have to like do everything and all the things, and it's like no, like if I don't want to I don't have to. Like this is just a place, it's a safe space, and I don't have to rush myself if it's been a week and I haven't, like, so I'm glad, and I hope it never, I hope like I don't expect that from you, and I hope no one
I
else does
appreciate
either,
that. Yeah,
because
I think.
I don't want you to get to that point, because I want you to just
Thank you.
share what feels good and maybe keep to yourself what feels sacred, and you don't want
Yeah.
that. So
And that's what my like true community on there. It's been a very slow build of people who are like, they see me as a person grieving, right? I'm not just
yeah,
like again a content creator or a place to come like consume. And
or like
if
I've
I
healed and this is like, this
yeah,
is
oh
my
gosh,
like no, like this is real
no.
life and I'm a person. Thank
Yes,
you.
I'm not making reels. I'm not posting every day to make sure like the algorithm kicks. I don't even know how it works. I think you post every day or whatever people say, and I'm just like, no, that is like, I'll delete the whole thing if we have to. I don't want to ever do that
Yeah,
because people have access to it that way. But, I started like a newsletter because I'm like, this feels a little bit different because it's smaller. I'm not just like having to create something that's like has to catch someone's eye. So
Yeah.
there's different, when I'm doing more local, or like not just local, but in-person events, and that it could
Good.
be like 10 people and it fills my cup so much. So I appreciate that. I think I'm going to be, I'm being extra intentional to make sure that does not happen, because I do not want this thing ruined,
Yeah.
because it's been so amazing for me and so healing.
Good. Well, I hope it stays that way. And
Thank
you're,
you.
because I just had a brain fart. But you know what I mean. Like, I hope it stays that way because it deserves to stay that way. And just, like I said, we'll ride at dawn if anyone.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll let you know. Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
I do have, so I do have a question. It may be a bit heavy. How do you feel about phone calls now?
Oh, yeah.
So I've had similar, like, I
Great
read, like, you were on a
question.
plane, you got a phone call,
Yeah.
you had just spoken. So personally for me,
Yeah.
like, phone calls, I've gotten too many that have changed my life quite terribly.
Very tragic
How do you
phone
deal with
calls.
them?
It's it might feel a little different, because my mom had dealt with suicidality throughout my entire life. So she had, they believe, a borderline personality disorder and possibly a mood disorder as well, but underlying was CPTSD, right? So she had attempted suicide throughout my entire life. Um, so those phone calls were normal every few months. Sometimes there would be a year where it would only be like maybe like one attempt. And I don't know how long we actually went without an attempt. It could have been years. There could have been, it all kind of blurs together. So we would often, not often, it wasn't like every week, but we were not unfamiliar with a phone call saying like, hey, your mom's in the hospital, your mom's in the ER, or get a phone call from her directly and I'm calling 911 because I can tell something's wrong,
Something's wrong.
right?
Yeah.
So this was the first phone call, obviously, because you can only die once, thank God, because I could not do this again. But this was the only phone call I'd ever gotten that said like she was actually gone, right? We had saved her, or she had survived so many times that we actually thought she was immortal. Like we did
Yeah.
not think she could die. That was like how we coped as children, was eventually she would just, tire out and she wouldn't be able to attempt suicide anymore, and she would see that life's okay, or we could find peace and she would be okay, and she would just get old and not need to like escape anymore.
Yeah.
So that phone call wasn't like, I think, other phone calls where people get the whole, right, like so and so's in a car accident, so and so overdosed. It was like we'd always gotten phone calls. This one happened to be, I was boarding a plane talking to her. I could tell something was wrong, right? And I was like, she seems like she might be under the influence. And she was saying, is it okay? She said, like, can you please let me go? And I was like, no, I'm not letting you go. And I was like angry, because I had dealt with this my whole life.
Yeah.
So I would get like
Totally.
irritable. And so I said, like, nope, I'm sending someone over. We're not doing this. I'm boarding a plane. I'll have someone there. I'll be there in, 3 hours when I land from Boston. I'll be in Detroit, and I'm driving to you anyways. And I hung up the phone. So when I sat down, right, got my seat, sat down, it was just like, this is the usual. I sent, I'll get someone over there. They'll go check on
Yeah.
her.
Like
We'll get her
almost
to
like
the
routine
doctors.
in your
It was
head
routine.
going through. Yeah.
This is protocol. I'd done this this is why I was such a good therapist, right? Like I'd done this so many. I worked on a youth suicide prevention program. I was on a crisis hotline. Like I knew this. Um, yeah, and it was, I called, and it was my little sister sobbing, saying like, she's gone, she took her life at home. And it was like something, like I'd never thought I'd hear those words, because
Yeah.
we were so used to her living. So yeah, it's a weird, it's almost like weirder that the phone calls stopped, if that makes
Mm.
sense, because
Yeah.
I would like trade back for those bad phone calls any day.
Any day.
That was like the one that ended all of them. I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense,
No.
but
It
it's a
like
very different
ended
story.
the cycle and the routine, and like it made, like it almost made like the
So
reality
final.
of like, no, like death is the possibility now.
Yeah,
Now
like she
it
can die,
it
and
can
she
happen.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, it's a, obviously the trauma, if I get any like, phone, like if there's a phone call or a text of call me, like that's always kind of been in me to be like, okay, we answer now because this is time
Yeah.
sensitive, right? I got to get the ambulance over to her house or something is there where I got to be on. It's just, yeah, it's like that's
Yeah.
always there, but
I was
I
just
don't know.
curious because I know like everyone
That's
has
a
like
good
different
question.
situations. Because like I'm kind of the same way now. Like I'll just get a call and like I'll just think it's the worst call ever because of how
Yes,
many times I've gotten a phone call to tell me something has happened. So I
it's
was just wondering.
terrible.
Yeah,
No,
it
that's a
is.
very real, that is such a real thing. Like it is just like, and there's something about in technology now, I'm like, if it's not a text, like, what are you doing calling me? Right?
Right.
That sounds urgent. That seems like something's wrong. So I think that was definitely much worse in those earlier years. And I didn't have it like entirely compounded, right? We have had losses since, but like not like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that'll always be there, that like if someone's calling me, that means like something else was taken or
Yeah.
something else, right?
Like
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
now?
that's a
Is
good
that
question.
done
Yeah, I
or
don't think
how is
anyone's
that?
ever asked.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just curious. I'm like came from a place of my own grief,
I
so
was
I
going to
figured
say,
I'd
because
ask.
you're living it. Yeah, and that's, your nervous system is seeing, right? Like
Yeah.
it responds like that. It's like, this is going to be bad.
Yeah, and I didn't know. I think like that's like the like I didn't really know like that's why I asked about like did you have therapy prior to mom and like things like that because I feel like so many of us don't realize like we have a nervous system and
Well,
that it
yeah, no
can
one knows what
get
that means.
dysregulated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
and
just
like it's a
interesting.
threat. Everything. I'm like, I was a trauma clinician before all this. So like I knew that, but it's very different when you go through it,
Yeah.
right? And just like logic didn't make sense anymore and like everything was registering as a threat and like my nervous system was like, your entire world is rocked, nothing is safe, anyone can die, even people who have never like have, you know, defied death so many times, like anyone can die at any moment. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to say I'm like not over that. If you talk to anyone that knows me, I'm definitely the person that's like, what if something happens to my kids? What if something happens to my husband? Like it's not gone. I am someone that like, I cry all the time holding my kids at night, like, please universe, don't take them from me. I am
Yeah.
constantly worried my husband's going to get in an accident or be sick. Like, if people think that goes away, like, no,
Okay.
there is still absolute trauma through and through. And my nervous system is like always wondering who's getting taken next,
Yeah.
because that introduced the idea that like anyone could die
Yeah. And then
and
I
your
know
whole world could change.
you've had like different ones. So like and then like
Yeah.
when things like I know you I listened to a podcast. I listened to the two girls two girls with grief podcast with
Yes.
you
Yeah.
as their guest and that was just a really good beautiful oh I hate when this happens my brain a really good episode and I was gonna go somewhere. What were we just talking about?
Talking about different losses. I know we were
Right.
talking about,
And you
I
did
think I had talked
mention
about my
your
niece
niece.
on that. Yes, Sahara
Yeah.
Ray. I never got to meet her, but obviously I got to
What was
like
her name?
Sahara Ray.
Sahara Rian.
Yeah. So she,
Beautiful.
my little sister and her husband, they didn't know, they definitely had a sense it was a little girl, but they didn't know until the day, they found out that she had died in utero. So they got, they named her like that same day that they found out like her sex, obviously, but she had
Yeah.
already passed. So that was like a loss we had never experienced. And obviously my, as auntie, is very different
Yeah.
than the intense loss my sister's gone through, but that was like awful because my mom wasn't here. And so it was compounded for her. It was weird to step in and be like, the sisters showing up and my mom not being there
Yeah,
for
like a
her.
sister
Like,
mother figure almost
yeah,
because
it
yeah.
was, it's a weird space just because she would be there. Like my little
Yeah.
sister and my mom were very close as well. So like my mom would have been the first call. She would have been there. So it is weird going through losses, now, and we're like, oh, she would still be our number one. Like,
Yeah.
hands down, it, as a parent now, I'm like, for all of my stuff, I'm like, my hard parenting days and the days I'm like, I don't know how people do this. I'm like, all I want to do is call my mom. All I want is like, Mom, just tell me I'm doing a good job. How'd you do this? I want to tell her thank you. And I appreciate everything you did so much more. You did this with like trauma and PTSD and all this stuff. And with 4 of us, and I'm struggling with 2. Right. So yeah, it's
Right.
different losses, not always deaths, but there's like losses show up in every day, I think, for us, like who are grieving. Right.
Definitely. How now you mentioned your daughters. I think I just want to bring up how I find it really beautiful that you want to talk directly about death. I did saw you also have a book, right? The Little Ladybug. What's the name of that book?
Yeah. My mama has a mama too.
My mama has a mama too. And
Yeah.
um, could you just? I just feel like not enough people talk directly to children about death. And could you just like talk to me and like people listening why you want to and why you believe like because I also do believe like that's the best way for kids to like understand because when we do put like confusing what's that word
Like,
euphemism
yes, euphemisms. Yes,
um
yes.
on death and like even like all the subjects I feel like that are so important for children to just understand what they are, we put euphemisms on them.
Yes, we do. We are
Like sex,
very taboo.
grief, death, like all of it. So could you
All of
just
it.
talk to me about? Because I just love that. I love the book. I find that so important.
Yeah. Yes, and obviously I don't specialize working with kids. I will never um try to like represent myself as some like kids grief specialist or even in therapy like I've only worked with adults, but I am very much like I'm an advocate for that direct communication, especially as someone who is not religious. I think it gets really confusing because like a lot of people are talking about heaven or there's a lot of like meanings in certain religions. I'm kind of, was raised in like this Christian world, but I'm like, what do we say to kids that's like universal, right? That's like no euphemisms, no like sugarcoating, things that aren't going to like cause anxiety for them in the future. And I knew so when I wrote that book, I was pregnant with my daughter, Sadie, and that's who the name in the book. I was pregnant with her. And obviously once I had her, I was pregnant within a few months with my other daughter. But it was because I wanted Sadie to know about her grandma, she would never meet, and I didn't want to confuse her by just saying like grandma's in heaven.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, I want to talk about her dying part. And we are in it. We are in the weeds of death talk right now. Like my kids are very much like, oh, did they die? I don't see their dad in this movie. Did they die? And we are like all up in it. Okay. So I do think it needs like it has to be like age appropriate. So they're like just even grasping what that means. And like, does that mean people come back? They'll say like, is Ladybug Grandma coming back? And I'm like, nope. Once someone dies, their body dies. And then, their spirit can live or soul, however you want to say that, if you even believe that. But I say like their body is no longer here.
Okay.
I have my grandma and my mom's ashes in urns right in front of me. So like this is in my office. My kids are in here and I'll say like they don't quite get that. And I'm not like, those are your grandma and great grandma's ashes, but I'll say like, this is where I come to talk to them, or right. Like I'll say like, this is Ladybug Grandma, whatever. But I always wanted to avoid saying like, oh, like grandma was like, people just get sick. And that's even tricky. They'll say like, why did Ladybug Grandma die? How'd she die? And I'll say like, her brain was really sick. But that's something like I can't explain suicide yet. Right? I can't explain that. I can't explain mental health yet, but I do try to like use that language. I don't say like they just went to sleep. No, because I don't want my kids to be afraid to fall asleep or afraid when I fall asleep. Right? I don't just say, they're in heaven with like a God or anything, because we don't like do that here. So I was like, I need some like language. That is our favorite book in this house all the time. That is, they don't know their mom wrote it, which is extra funny. So they just like, they want to, they don't know that's me. So they're just like, I want to read the Ladybug book. And, oh, does this mean, this ladybug, like did her mom die or did her grandma die? And it just like, we have this conversation about dying. I don't know if you've ever seen a Disney movie, but there's a lot of death. And so I was like, how did we get through doing this without having the conversation about death? Right. So I think my
So
mom was
true.
much more direct about death, but I was really bad at death. So she would say, like, we will all die. Like, one day my body will not be with you. And, like, just know I'm with you. And, like, I will always, like, my spirit will always fight to be with you and my energy will be with you. But, like, my body will be gone one day. And she would talk about it and I would be like, absolutely not. I was very much like denial.
Yeah.
Like, I would, when animals died, I was a wreck. I think we can all tell just based on my poetry. I don't get over things. I don't move on quick. And she
Me
was like,
either.
yeah, that's just who you are, honey. Like, my mom would just be like, you, like, grieving, you grieve deep. And that is just like who you are. And I don't want my kids to have that like taken from them just because I'm trying to like protect them from that feeling. They will grieve me one day.
Yeah.
And I will be lucky for that to happen because I better not be grieving them, right?
No. No, no.
So if we are one of the privileged, lucky people, they will grieve me one day. And I want them to like totally be in touch with that and not be like blindsided for the first time.
I really respect that, and I find it to
You
be
know,
really, really important. And I wish, not like there's a right way. I just wish more people would talk more directly to their children because I think it does help in the long run. So I love that.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. Or just like they don't want you to be sad. I'm like, of course,
No one
that
wants to
like
be
of
sad,
course no one wants to be sad, but like you're so entitled to feeling sad. And like they
Exactly.
do get sad about my mom. Like, oh, I does she come back? Will we ever get to see her? Can I see her? Like, is she in the sky? Like, you can be sad about that. They see me get sad. Are you sad, mama? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sad. That was my mom. I love her. I miss her. And that's okay. I don't want you caretaking those feelings, but I want them to understand like things will be sad and death can be sad. Now they don't
Yeah.
need to understand like the trauma parts or all of that, but there will be like there will be a day we will have to discuss like grandma died by suicide, and I will have
Yeah.
that conversation because I'm not ashamed of her or her
No, not.
journey, and I'm not ashamed of how she died. But yeah, so I think
I love
there are
that.
some wonderful accounts that are online that like people do specialize in grief and have like the research around talking about death directly with children, and like they
Okay.
show kind of like age brackets and stuff, and it is so helpful. Like I look at those often like, okay, am I saying too much? Is this too much
Yeah.
detail? Is it not enough? But it's the same thing like with sex. I'm a sex therapist. I'm constantly trying to figure out what
The best.
what to
Yeah.
say to them versus like what they're not ready for yet, but I want to be like very informed and medically accurate and all that. So yeah, we're very direct in this house, but
I love it.
we still want to honor their age,
Yeah, no, and
you
I
know.
think just directness in general, like you said, with sex, and that's amazing to just start that. And then also, I feel like directness with grief kind of gives you that, like when we put euphemisms and make it taboo, it almost takes away being able to continue our own grief in front of our loved ones.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's so important to have that, to be able to do that together. So I love that you're doing that because I feel like that connection with your girls will just be stronger because like you let them into something so sacred so young. So
Absolutely. And it connects them to their grandma,
yeah,
and it's
grandma.
like this is ever I'm like if there's anyone in the world you could meet, like it would have been her, like
Yeah.
that, like so I it connects them that, and then also just knowing like they're gonna lose people, like they will see things die one day,
Yeah.
and like it's so hard. It's even harder if you don't understand what happened, right? So
So
now
true.
you're grieving and you don't even know what it is. I don't want to do that to
Yeah.
them. It already is such a
Such a hard
process,
process.
so yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know, maybe one
I
day.
love it. I just wanted to
Yeah, I
give you
don't
your
know.
flowers. I'm like, that's amazing. So good for you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
One other thing I wanted to talk to you about is gratitude and grief. It's
Oh,
such it's such a funny thing. Like I
it
feel like you
is.
do it good with your poetry because like you can tell like when you're having gratitude and when you're and it's funny
Yeah,
how they
everyone knows
live
the
like
mood.
side by side. And now like I'll tell myself like every birthday I'm like age is a privilege to die to many. Like that's what I tell myself the older I get.
Yes,
Like
I love
no
that.
longer bitch about getting older. Like I feel like
No,
I
I
lost
love
that
it.
like years ago. But it's weird. Like how did you get there and like what's that been like for you to hold them together, the gratitude and the grief?
Yeah, oh gosh, I feel like it's still Yeah, like you said, you can probably tell even just like what poem I posted one day or whatever. I'm like, it flips, right? One day it's
Yeah.
just very much like, I can't believe I lost her. I can't believe this. And then it's just like, oh my gosh. The next day I'm like, I can't believe she was mine. I can't believe I got that lucky. I can't believe I got 28 years and she had zero memory of her mom, right?
Yeah.
Or people who have endured child loss. I'm like, and I connect with so many
Mhm.
folks who have lost children or siblings and things. And so I'm constantly trying to keep myself grateful, but not in a way to minimize my own grief or cancel it out. It's very easy to say, well, I just lost a mom. I didn't lose a child. So, and that's actually more of like a minimizing, shutting down rather than like gratitude. So I actually try to practice like gratitude is very like specific to my mom or to me, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm safe in a home and I'm a mother and I have the most amazing husband ever. And I think my mom put all of these people in
I
my
was gonna
life.
say because it
Yeah.
happened so like mom
Handpicked. Yeah.
passed away, and then like you met your
We started
husband you've
dating a
known since
couple months
11,
later.
and like
Yeah.
it's just like your
Yeah.
whole life, like it is beautiful, but like we were talking about earlier, it's like hope you don't take offenses. It's like that rose. Like I feel like when we walk with grief and we get love, it's it's just it's twisted and dark and light our whole
It
life.
is. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. That means, and this is trauma. I'm so grateful. There's so many amazing things. And then I'm scared that I said that.
And they're gonna,
And
yep.
that means like something's going to get taken, right? It's going to like balance it back out. Cause that when the year my mom died, I said to her a month before she passed, I said, it feels like this is the best year I've ever had. And like everything is just like going my way and my cup is so full and I'm traveling and I'm doing all this stuff. And for a long time, this is like a cognitive distortion. And this is like magical thinking, all these things where I was like, the universe was like, oh, we need to like put you in your place. We got to bring you down a peg. It was going too well. You need a life lesson. And that's kind of like the narrative I had in my mind was like, I shouldn't have said anything. And so I still have that. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But I will still say, like, are things going too well? Am I too grateful? Am I feeling too good? Does that mean like the universe is going to like
Something
spot me and spot
yeah.
it and say, like, hey, she hasn't had turmoil in a long time.
Yep.
Right?
So,
Let's spice things
let's
up or
spice it
let's give
up.
her some, yeah, she needs a
Yeah.
challenge again. And sometimes I'm like, please no.
Yeah.
But I have watched people who have not gotten any breaks,
Same. Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's a balance. It's intentional. And it's just like an ongoing process. I'll probably die doing that. I'll probably die having
Yeah.
like 5 minutes of gratitude, 5 minutes of grieving, feeling scared to be grateful. I'm actually writing something. I have it in my notes app and I'm not sure how I'm going to shape it yet, but it was along the lines of um, when in the grieving world, like when we practice gratitude, it sounds a lot like we're bragging. But when we're grieving and mourning openly, it sounds a lot like we're not moving on fast enough or we're choosing to be sad. Now that's obviously not a poem.
Yeah, but
I have to take those thoughts and I make them into like a poem of some kind, but that is like that's so true. I'm like if I sometimes it feels like when I practice gratitude I'm bragging about the things I haven't lost,
yeah.
right? And then other times when I'm grieving openly, it feels like I'm being too negative or I'm like sitting in the sad for too long. And so even just that feeling of like people can say all day long on Instagram, like grief and gratitude coexist and these both exist at the same time and coexist. But I'm like, it's way harder to actually put into practice,
It is.
I think.
Because I think,
Right.
like you said, I'll probably die doing that too. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, that'll be lifelong.
When's the other shoe going to drop? Like, that's
Yes.
me and my sister look at each other all the time. We're like, what's next? It's quiet.
What's next?
What's
like
happening?
like, yeah, what
and
tragedy's next?
I hate that people live like that. I hate that, like, I hate that you, and hopefully it can get better by better, but it's just.
Yeah, I think like with, therapy and
rough.
regulation and yeah, it's like it's trauma. Like I'm like, of course it's creating that belief to like keep me safe. It's like a constant like defensive pessimism, right? So that way if something does get taken, I didn't get my hopes up that life is good.
Time,
Yeah, like, and of course when it does, I would never be prepared, but I'm like, Yeah, I'm like, especially in this world, and I'm sure you see this with all the people you talk to, you're hearing about loss all day. Like I'm
Yeah.
getting messages and I'm getting beautiful pictures of babies and spouses and siblings, and I'm hearing stories. But what that also does is it makes it feel like everyone just dies. I'm not in the normal world of like, I'm like in therapy with people struggling, and then I'm on this page where I'm hearing these sacred stories and these losses, but it can make your brain think like, look at how many people die when they're not supposed to. That for a
Yeah.
long time I was like holding my kids like I think they're gonna die, right? Like all I'm hearing about are parents coming to me saying their babies died, like this happened. So it almost did the reverse where most people avoid and they don't want to talk about children dying and they don't want to talk about suicide and they pretend it doesn't happen. I almost went the opposite where I thought like that's all that was happening. Like children don't get to grow up. Like just assume that like children will die. And finally, my therapist and loved ones were like, hey, it's okay to like honor people's stories and to hold space for them. And that doesn't mean like you have to like prepare for everyone's death in your life.
Yeah.
Right. And that was hard. That's hard because
hard.
I held every story and I read anything that anyone sends me. Like I read the stories, I look at the pictures, I will look at your profile and look at the pictures you have of them. Like I'm in it. Right. And I'm like, oh, I have to build in some breaks because
Yeah.
I just assume like,
Well, because you
okay,
can
that
take
means
in
everyone
that
dies.
pain. Once you've
Yeah.
had that pain and have experienced it, I feel like it's easier to like absorb others and like put yourself like, and that can get very, very, very heavy and
Yes. And
make
I don't ever
yourself
want people
scared.
to not share.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I just have to be,
Yeah. We have
I have to build
to
in my
balance it.
buffers. Yeah. And like we're not immune. I'm like there is no that's them. They lost a child or a sibling or they lost both parents in a year from each other. I don't get to do the like that's them and this is me. But I also don't have to say, right, like I need to do all of that if it has not happened, right? There is no
Yeah.
preparing for that. So don't try to prepare for something you don't know is going to
It's gonna
happen
happen.
because you can't. So yeah, it kind of flips the other way where most people are avoidant and I lean in so hard that yeah, I still want to remain helpful in this
Yeah.
space. Of course. I don't want to be like debilitated because I take it all on and can't actually like help
No,
anymore,
you're
right?
definitely helping. I don't think
Yeah.
that could ever happen. I feel like even if you thought you weren't being helpful, I'd be like, no, Sarah, you're very helpful. Don't, your brain's lying to you.
As I say,
You
I'm
know,
like, it likes to do that. I
it
was
likes
like, if
to do
anyone
that.
hasn't picked up, I'm a very anxious person.
Me too.
But
I was like so excited to speak to you. I'm like, I just feel like I'm gonna meet like a long lost friend who just shared
yeah.
some twists that
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm right with you.
Oh. Well, I appreciate this time so much. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to touch on at this point?
No, this was wonderful. This was such a good conversation. So many good
Yeah.
points. Thank you for your amazing, thoughtful questions. And yes, I hope we can schedule something where I get to hear all about you and your story because I know this is very
Yeah, we
focused
could
on me.
totally.
So,
I just
yeah,
really wanted to hear your story and honor the people
thank
you've
you.
lost because I just,
Thank
like
you.
I said, the videos of your mom, like her smile and like she's beautiful. I just hope you know that and
Thank
all the
you.
love and, goodness to your sister and your whole family. Just, like I know grief is a journey and we're all on it differently, but I hope, like it's just, it feels, like you said, not, we're not healed, but it just feels, I don't know, what's that word?
You know
Healing
what?
or like
Healing. I like healing more
healing
than
because it's
healed, right? Yeah.
continuous. Like this is
Yes.
healing because like I think sometimes we don't get to talk like I don't know, like it's just nice to talk about grief and this was just something I was just very honored to hear more of your story. So thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. And I do. I think one way that I have said to people, and this has like been in some poems and even just like while talking, I'm like, it's like grief being like going from like a scar to like a tattoo. Like it's always with you, it's always there, it's not any lighter, but it's like somehow just kind of like it's not more control over it, but something just it's like changed for me where it went from like this really ugly scar that I didn't get to choose what it looked like, how it looked, what I was going to do with it to like a tattoo, which has a little bit more like I get to figure out what I'm doing with this, and it's still going to be just as bright and just as apparent and visible, but I don't view it so much like as just like a scar anymore. But when we say healed, that makes me think like the scar is gone
Yeah.
and that it's just skin left, and I don't like that because that I'm like no, it's you'll see it. It just might not look the same, right?
I love that. Yeah, that really
Yeah,
hits
I don't
with
know.
me.
That computes to me,
Yeah,
but I know
no, it
not
definitely
everyone.
does.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really, really beautiful.
Thank you.
I
Thank
love that.
you.
I feel like I'm gonna write about that. Like,
Good. Yeah, please do. Yeah, this is the point of all this, right? I love it.
love it.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, tell did you just have your latest book come out, When Bones Bloom?
Yes.
That
So
where can
When Bones
people
Bloom
find
was a
all that good
20 that was 2020. So the most recent one there's so many. The most recent one was As a Waterfall. That was
Okay.
just released in November. So As a Waterfall, that's the blue cover one.
Okay.
That's on Amazon, and I also sell copies directly. You can also find third-party sellers that might sell, but if you are not an Amazon user, or if you'd like your book signed or a personalized message, you can reach out to me directly on my Instagram. There's a link for that, or on my website, there's a link if you would like a copy directly sent to you and don't want to use Amazon. But they're all on there. I have all copies, so yeah.
Okay, cool. I love that you
Mm-hmm.
do like I'm gonna have to get one of those.
Yeah, I
How do you
love it.
do
I love
that?
being able to, I just get to, write whatever message. You can personalize it however you want, or I can, if you just want me to sign or just want me to write a message that comes to me. Yeah, it's a really cool thing. I love doing that because the Amazon stuff, I don't get to see those. Those are just printed and distributed.
Just distributed.
So these ones are
Okay.
like, they're home with me and I get to write in them and put a bookmark and
I love
stickers,
that.
whatever. So yeah.
That's so beautiful. Yay.
Thank
Okay. Well, I
you.
definitely want one from you. So I'll go your and I'll put all that in the link.
Perfect.
But yay.
Good.
I'm so excited. Thank you everyone for listening to this episode, and thank you, Sarah, for being here.